Well, we're going to get started here. Thanks, everyone. Keep putting in the chat where you're tuning in from. It's incredible to see the representation we have from across the United States and maybe even around the world. I'm Rob Watson, the Executive Director of EdRedesign and lecturer here at Harvard Graduate School of Education. And it's my distinct pleasure to welcome you to today's screening, celebrating the launch of an incredible new YouTube series, Dream On. Today's event will start with brief remarks from me and Dream On co-producer James Watson, and then we'll quickly get to screening Dream On's first episode, released just this morning. The episode travels to San Antonio, Texas, to tell the story of communities and schools. Following the viewing of the episode, I'm going to be joined by show host Joe Posner, researcher and EdRedesign postdoctoral fellow Jamie Gracie, EdRedesign's Paul Rebel and Tauhida Jackson, and Ray Saldana, CEO and president of Communities and Schools, for a unique look at how this episode came together and to answer any of your questions. You're welcome to share your comments and thoughts in the chat, and I encourage you to submit any questions you have to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen for our panel discussion later. So lots more to come. So as we get started, I want to briefly share how Dream On came to be and why we believe it can transform how we tell stories about upward social and economic mobility in the United States. At EdRedesign, our mission is simple. Every child and young person, regardless of background, deserves a fair shot. We work with communities to break down barriers to opportunity, both in and out of school, from cradle to career. And in short, we're focused on changing the odds, not just beating them for a single few. Every day we see powerful, inspiring work happening across the country to expand opportunity, and yet too often, these are the stories that the news overlooks. As someone who grew up in a low-income household and neighborhood in Poughkeepsie, New York, and is now working with an incredible roster of local leaders and institutions in my hometown to disrupt cycles of intergenerational poverty, I know how important it is to have access to the best examples of community-led solutions across the country to inform our ability to make change. It's that hunger for real solutions to seemingly intractable problems that inspired Dream On. We've been lucky to join forces on this journey with two outstanding journalists. Joe Posner, co-creator of Vox Video, and Emmy Award-winning journalist James Watson, who shared this belief that this gap needed to be addressed. Together, we set out to create a mission-driven YouTube show that brings together rigorous, independent reporting and the best of creator-led storytelling to highlight evidence-based solutions from communities across the country. The result has been Dream On, a series that spotlights place-based partnerships, local innovation, and the people working to transform their communities. We believe this launch marks an important step in bringing these stories and the solutions they offer to a broader audience across the United States and beyond. And while I could say a lot more, I think you'll see once you watch Dream On, you'll understand exactly why we're so excited. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce you to James Watson, my brother from another mother, who is a two-time Emmy Award winner and four-time nominee. He previously worked for 60 Minutes, NBC, and the New York Times, and he's also a nonprofit co-founder who has spent the past 10 years working with me and many local leaders to restore the American dream in our hometown in Poughkeepsie. His work has helped secure more than $20 million in government funding and philanthropy for our community. James, the floor is yours to tell us a bit about creator journalism, Dream On, and how people can engage during today's screening. Thanks, James.
Thanks, Rob. And so many of the people on this call and in the chat I'm seeing, are people that we've worked with in Poughkeepsie and that have helped us do a lot of that work. So thank you first to all of you. I don't want to stand in the way of showing you all the episode because that's what we're here for. So I don't want to talk too long. But just before we kind of send you off, I wanted to comment on kind of two things. So first, I just wanted to touch on why, as journalists, my co-producer and the show's host Joe Posner and I are launching a YouTube show, and why we're doing this with EdRedesign as a partnership. And then two, I just wanted to share a few steps on how you can help us as you screen the episode today. So just quickly at the top here, this project has been in development for a long time. So behind the scenes, we've been working on it a lot. And to us, it seems like the most natural thing in the world, that journalists would join forces with EdRedesign to cover this field. But I realize maybe it might not, kind of immediately make the, kind of same sense to folks kind of from the outside. So I just wanted to kind of quickly touch on why we're doing this and why we're doing this is what we call a creator journalism initiative. So the reason why we're doing this as creator journalism, and I'll define that in a second, but mainly kind of the most important part there is that we're doing this on YouTube. And the reason we're doing that is that the media landscape has changed dramatically in the last few years, as all of you know. Especially when it comes to where people get their news and shape their opinions about the world. So just kind of a few facts to kind of just put that in relief. About half of US adults use YouTube daily. And among Americans ages 18 to 44, more now get their news from YouTube than from any single outlet like CNN or the New York Times. And this shift has fueled the rise of what we call creator journalism. And that is independent, high quality reporting designed for online audiences on social video sites like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, rather than traditional media organizations. And we've been inspired by seeing other creators, many of whom actually cut their teeth and developed their talents under Joe at Vox and then went independent. Folks like Cleo Abram and Johnny Harris, who now have audiences of millions of people. And Cleo's a great example of somebody who's telling optimistic stories and proving that there's an audience for those stories, where in the past, mainstream news and large outlets might not have given her the resources to do that. So that's why, when we were looking at this challenge in America around the challenges around the American dream, who many of you on this call know intimately, how economic mobility and opportunity is really starting to kind of fade from a sense of possibility in America. We knew that we had to tell those stories on YouTube. And what we wanted to specifically do was tell the stories of what you all are doing, and so many of others in this national field are doing, to fix the American dream, to fight for economic mobility and make that real in places across America. So that's why we're committed to telling this on YouTube, telling these stories on YouTube, and bringing these stories to people online. So that brings me to our ask of you all today. I think maybe you might have heard about this YouTube algorithm. You may have heard terms like attention wars. Well, it's real, and it's hard to break through the noise. But we have such an asset in this community of people who are committed to these hopeful stories, and we just wanted to take you through how you can do that with us. So Sarah and the team are going to put up a slide here. We have some few steps that we're going to ask you to follow if you can. So rather than showing it to you live on this webinar, what we're asking you all to do is, after we kind of go through these steps, to then go out and search for the video. So we're going to ask you to, I'm going to take you through the steps, and then I'm going to shut up and kind of send you off into the internet. So step one, we're asking you to go to youtube.com, the homepage. We're asking you to search for the first episode, our debut episode. So we're going to ask you to search. We'll put it in the chat. You can copy and paste. You're going to search for "This Top Secret Kindness Club Fights Poverty," in parentheses, "It Works," plus "Dream On," our channel and show title. It's important to search. By doing that, you're helping us a lot. A search counts for 10 times the amount of a normal view with the algorithm. So you're helping us take on the algorithm. Thank you for that. And then once you find the video, when you search, you can see below the thumbnail images. So when you search, you're going to see one of those images. That's how you know you've got us, and it'll say "Dream On" there. The title may be a little bit different. We're split testing. It's called A/B testing, so we can test a few different titles to see if anything breaks through. But if you search that title I gave you, it should definitely pop up, and you see one of those images, you found us. And then click on one of those, whatever pops up for you, and that's going to bring you to the video. And we're asking that you watch the video all of the way through. It's a 20-minute episode. I know it's a little long, but I promise it moves fast. And by watching all of the way through, that sends a super important signal too. So total watch time is extremely important. And by watching all the way through, you're helping us a lot. If for some reason you can't watch, it's better that you pause and watch it later, because if you just watch like 2 or 3 minutes at the top and then stop, that sends a bad signal to the algorithm. So if you just ask you to be sensitive to that. And then after you've watched, if the spirit moves you, it's not mandatory. We don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's super helpful if you can engage with the video. So the YouTube is a social video site. We're building an online community, so it loves to see people engaging with the comments. And so what that looks like is leave a comment, whatever you feel. It's helpful to leave a 5+ word comment. YouTube likes that, so 5+, more than 5 words. Like it, subscribe if you want to stay up to date. We're going to be publishing episodes monthly moving forward, so we're super excited about that. And then share the video. So those are the instructions. We're going to leave this slide up on the screen. The team will help in the chat if you have any issues. And I'm just going to send you off into the world and watch the video. And we're super excited to get your thoughts and comments on the other side. Rob's going to lead a great Q&A with Joe and others. And we're excited to hear all of your thoughts. So thank you again for all of your support, and look forward to connecting with you on the other side of the video. Oh, and the Q&A will start around 12:30, between 12:35 and 12:40.
All right. We're going to welcome everyone back. I see the chat box is on fire. We're really grateful for all of you for spending time with us and taking a look at this first episode. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It's a really special story, and we're grateful to our friends at Communities in Schools for the opportunity to collaborate. So I'm going to pass the mic now to one of our heroes in this field. We would not be on this call if it wasn't for him, EdRedesign's faculty director and founder, Paul Revel. Paul has not only been key to the development of Dream On, but he's long been a leader in the cradle to career place-based field. I could spend much more time introducing Paul and his many accomplishments, but I really want you to have the opportunity to hear from him directly on why this kind of work in the episode you just saw is so important. So Paul, I have you come on camera and I'll pass it to you.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. And thank you all for taking the time to join us today. We're thrilled to have you with us, and I'm honored to have a moment of your time. I want to score why what you just saw, this very moving video we just looked at, matters so much to our work. For many of us and many of you, our life's work, and why it matters so much to this place-based cradle to career movement. I founded EdRedesign on a simple premise. Efforts to advance equity for children and youth have been too narrowly focused on the classroom, where students spend only 20% of their waking hours from K to 12. That leaves out critical systems and sectors: health, housing, wellness, out-of-school time, and more. These factors that shape and deliver opportunity. It's one thing to hear our team at Harvard talk about the power of solutions like personalized supports and cross-sector partnerships. And it's another thing altogether to meet someone like Allie and see how those connections come to life through communities and schools in San Antonio and the potent relationships they develop between adults and students all across the country. What you've just seen is how this work is driven by people deeply committed to improving the lives of children and families, deeply committed to equity. And ultimately, we're working toward an America where race, place, and income no longer determine who you get to be in your school or in your life. As we continue building the evidence base for what works in the cradle to career place-based field, we also need to tell stories, smart stories of hope and heart, stories that bring this work to life. Those are what inspire others to do this work and to join in it. That's what Dream On is all about, creating inspiration, hope, and possibility to power our movement. We appreciate your all being here today and supporting this kind of work. This is visionary work, and I want to thank those on the EdRedesign team who've worked so tirelessly on this. Joe and James are incredible co-producers, and the many others who have helped bring this work to life. And so, Rob, back to you.
Thanks, Paul. So now I'm excited to welcome onto the virtual stage 4 people who are instrumental to the story you just watched and making Dream On as a new series that we're excited to launch today. We'll bring on Jamie Gracie, Tauhida Jackson, Joe Posner, and Ray Saldana. So I'll first welcome Jamie. Jamie Gracie is an economist with a PhD here from Harvard. She is currently a postdoctoral fellow with EdRedesign and a research affiliate with Opportunity Insights. With Cornell's Benny Goldman, she's the co-author of the groundbreaking study you saw highlighted in the episode, When Resources Meet Relationships, the returns to personalized supports for low-income students. So for you students on the call, hit the books because you could do something like Benny and Jamie did. That's a big deal. Tawhida Jackson is here as well, my partner in crime, Deputy Director of EdRedesign and the inaugural Director of the EdRedesign's Institute for Success Planning. Success planning is a strategy that centers relationship-based personalization. Tawhida has been a critical part of the conceptualization of Dream On as a key advisor. And as a senior leader at EdRedesign, she brings 25 plus years of experience working across sectors in youth development, local government, philanthropy, school districts, and out of school time systems. Her work focuses on building the capacity of cross-sector leaders in urban, suburban, and rural communities to build, scale, and sustain cross-sector initiatives to create more access and opportunity for all young people through relationships with caring adults. Now we have with us formerly Cambridge and now Brooklyn's finest, Joe Posner, the host and co-producer of Dream On.
I don't know about finest, Rob.
Previously, Joe was the creative leader behind Vox Video, working with Vox co-founder Ezra Klein. Under Joe's tenure, Vox amassed over 2 billion views for its videos and 10 million subscribers for its award-winning YouTube channel. He also produced TV shows with multiple networks, including 70 episodes of the Explain series on Netflix, and created and directed the Emmy-nominated Level Playing Field on HBO. Finally, we have with us the great Ray Saldana, President and CEO of Communities in Schools, and the current By All Means Senior Fellow at Redesign. He's helping take our entire community at the Harvard Graduate School of Education back to school. And as you saw in the episode, Ray is a CIS alumnus himself. But before rejoining the organization as its president and CEO, Ray served as the regional advocacy director for the Raise Your Hand Texas Foundation and the chair of the San Antonio Metropolitan Transit Agency, VIA. Before that, he successfully served 4 terms on the San Antonio City Council, where he was selected at age 24, elected at age 24, becoming the youngest council person in that city's history, someone who is deeply committed to his hometown. And so for those of you I know tuning in from your hometowns, study Ray's story. So with that, I'm going to invite each panelist to provide a brief 1-minute introduction to why they got involved in this work, starting with Tawhida. Then I'll go to Ray, then Joe and Jamie, and after that, we'll turn to audience questions. So I'll pass it to you, Tawhida.
Hi, thank you, Rob, and welcome everyone. So as the director for the Institute for Success Planning, which Rob alluded to, focuses on relationship-based supports. This is so interesting and exciting for us to be able to be connected to this work. I get the pleasure to lead an institute that sees this type of work being built out across the country in urban, suburban, and rural settings. And I think the promise of why it's important for us to do this now is a lot of times we hear the divisive things that are happening in community, but what we've seen about a lot of these personalized supports or the place-based work that is being uplifted here is that it bridges divides across ideological boundaries and also gets to highlight the amazing collaborative work that is happening with cross-sector leaders across the country as they implement these strategies and are passionate and committed to making sure that there are better outcomes for young people. So congratulations to the team, and I will turn it back over to Rob.
Thanks, Tawhida. And Ray, we'll bring you into the mix.
Well, great to see that there are a lot of folks who are on virtually. I'm privileged that I get to be a voice for over 5,000 Alejandras who are deploying this work all across the country. This is staff who every day are making their life's work, this idea of making the American dream real. And you see how both hard and how much heart it takes. So as a leader of this work at Communities in Schools, I'm just proud that CIS not only gets to be part of the story and the storytelling, but I'm also just point of personal privilege, proud that I got to feature my own mother and father and my own site coordinator in this. Because it's people, real relationships. And at its core, Communities in Schools exist to connect the disconnected in that way. We enter public schools. We have trained adults that you saw through Alejandra who are equipped with resources, the community supports, all to really create that symphony that was talked about. Who's the conductor? Who's working alongside the students who need them the most? And that's fundamentally a question of access and access to relationships. And the opportunity here to partner with the team at Dream On, with Joe and James, the research really was just worth it for us because we had confidence not only in our model, in our people, in the theory of change. We believe that our work really could stand up to real scrutiny because real relationships matter. that being present matters. The connection inside schools and communities that we often, leave behind in some spaces, their communities that may be forgotten or ignored. It's just morally necessary for us, and we, as we found out, also measurable. So we're excited that we get to be part of a storytelling opportunity, but something that we don't think gets enough attention, which is the real work of the hard work of connecting relationships to the people and the students who need it most.
Thanks so much, Ray. And Joe, we want to bring you into the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys have listened to me talk enough this morning. So I just want to say thanks to everybody that made this project possible, right? I get to be the one talking on screen right now and in that video, but it was truly a massive group effort. Like everything that I've seen in this field thus far, my motivation to do this, I also mentioned in the episode, but I'm married to an educator, and I hear these kinds of stories all the time. We don't have CIS in New York, and that was there were a lot of questions about that because we were also filming at Amy's school for this episode with Bill Milliken, and yeah, I think that like I'm just really motivated to find more of these stories. We already have made 2 more episodes. We're really excited to share with people, and I think the important thing that I want to tell everybody is like, we want to learn from you, right? I know that Rob and I just had this conversation last week too. So we're so excited for y'all to give us more suggestions of the kinds of stories you want to see covered, because Lord knows we need more of these kinds of stories out there amidst such a pessimistic and reasonably pessimistic time. To find the things that are worth being optimistic about is so crucial. And there's a question: what will the episode publication cadence be for the full series? We are publishing these long form stories monthly, and we'll be publishing a lot more short form, probably 2 or 3 times a week.
Thanks for that, Joe. And last but not least, I want to get Jamie in the mix, whose research, along with Benny Goldman, is extraordinary. And we're really grateful for the labor of love she's put into this over many years. So, Jamie, want to tee you up to talk about the importance of how you see the research and how this can make it accessible.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Thanks so much for having me. It's really a treat to be here. I think, for us, this whole thing is just super cool. I think, we spend like several years working on this, essentially like looking at spreadsheets with millions of rows and writing code. But I think it's super important to see kind of the real people behind the numbers. And I think that's not always easy for us as researchers to do. We're not always like kind of on the ground. And so I feel like I've learned a ton just from watching this video. It already changes like how I talk about the research in academic seminars. But I think, besides being kind of interesting to us, the whole point of doing this type of research is to hopefully understand kind of what's going on in the world and kind of how to improve it bit by bit. And I feel like these types of videos go much beyond kind of what we can do with a compelling graph. And I think the thing I've really enjoyed about kind of seeing it is just, I think they go really well together and they kind of amplify each other in a good way. So it's been really a privilege to be part of.
Thanks so much for that, Jamie. And I think we all hopefully are appreciating on this call that Joe said it the other day, the future of news is collaborative. When you have the journalist with the researcher, with the practitioner, with the resident, with the young person, with the navigator, that magic can happen and we can do something systematically compelling. And so today is really, as said earlier, an invitation to you all to join us in this movement and really help us unearth the best stories in the country, transforming lives for millions of young people and families. So with that, we want to bring in a few audience questions. So we're going to go to you first, Ray. We have a question about, given the research, stories like this, how do you see scaling at CIS, bringing the program to more kids? And what's on your mind as you're thinking about how you can contribute as an organization, but also the broader movement of folks you're a part of?
Yeah, so the question of scaling is an important one, that if you lead a nonprofit, if you have an intervention that is working, you're constantly asking yourself, if this is working in one place, what do we do to get it to more students, more people, more children? And frankly, that's you've met Bill Milliken through our series here. That's what our founder's been asking since 1977, except he didn't know the vehicle could be a nonprofit, that the vehicle could be inside schools. So often our founder describes to us this intersection where he said, maybe we need to build a whole new system of schools. And actually what he did was take a right at that place and say, no, I actually want to work inside the system where students are. And so it was a question for him not to recreate that wheel, but work within an existing system. So as we think about expanding in scale. We've been around for 50 years. The nonprofit sector knows a thing or two about how to do things, but it also can make some mistakes along the way. So we don't like to scale unless we have a community that is ready, that people on the ground in places in whether it's in New York or Oregon or in Alabama where we're not operating understand what we're trying to do and think long term, what's durable. Because you saw some of the students that we work with in the video. These are students who don't just need a site coordinator one day, one week, or one year. How do you actually make that continuum of support possible? And there's a lot of research that we know tells us what also doesn't burn out Alejandra as our site coordinator, and how do you support and fund her work? The idea is making sure that communities can embrace this work, can fully fund the work, and find the people who are going to be creating that relationship. Because if Bill Milliken had an idea, it's that the concept of hope, relationship inside of school is possible, but all of the conditions have to be right. So we've made mistakes where we've tried to scale too quickly, go into a community that's not ready, not find the funding. And now we're actually being a little more intentional about where those priority communities and states to come in. At 3,700 schools that we're operating in with 5,000 staff, that sounds impressive, but there are something like 70,000 Title I schools that we know need this work. So we're itching to get to these communities, but it is a question of doing it in a way that's durable. We think the students deserve the best of what we can deliver, and we don't shortchange that, and we don't back away from that.
Thanks, Ray. Tawhid, I'd love to bring you in the mix. I know a few questions are coming in per Ray's comment, just about what it looks like to get started with a personalized relationship-based initiative in your community, whether it's CIS or some other similar approach. Where do you recommend they start?
So I just want to thank everyone on the call again and Ray for the amazing work that you're doing. So in the Institute for Success Planning, it is a version of what we call relationship-based personalized supports. And in order to get started, we think about local communities co-designing an initiative that really focuses on an entry point or a dilemma of practice or a persistent disparity that might exist. So it may be chronic absenteeism, it may be low academic scores, it may be really trying to support young people and families that are unhoused. And how do we really design something that is personalized in a way that gets at those disparities to move the needle? And I think the big part of this is not just about a programmatic implementation, but once we see results and we create proof points on the ground, how do we translate that into policy and systems change? So how do we use that data to inform elected officials or lawmakers on how they can be resourcing such strategies? And shout out to Dayton, Ohio, and I see Ohio on the call, one of our success planning communities where they've actually had legislation around personalization to get more resources for this type of work. So I just wanted to name the systems change approach in this. When you go kid by kid and you understand what their needs are and understand the needs of their families, which they are a part of, then we can be more targeted in our approaches and support them in ways that are meaningful and then move the needle on progress as well.
Thanks so much, Tawhid. Joe, I'd love to come back to you on, what's something you've learned about this field that really excites you? And why do you see it as fertile ground for stories about fixing the American dream?
I see it as fertile ground because I think that, if you look at the media, right, it bleeds, it leads, right? And there's a reason for that. As humans, our attention does normally go towards areas of conflict. But the areas of collaboration are are exciting to me because I often feel really depressed looking at the news. And I think that everybody right now, in order to deliver on, what has always been a really radical dream, the idea that all of us are created equal, is still very far away. It is going to take a lot of collaboration. And the exciting thing that I keep seeing in all of these stories is how many people it takes to make something like this happen. It is incredibly difficult and hard. And it's like Teacher Appreciation Week, right? I just think that there needs to be more out there that says, you know what? Let's just celebrate this. I think that there is a very important need. The Pulitzer Prizes were this week, right? There's a need for accountability journalism in this world, but there is also a need for celebration of the things that matter the most to us as a society, right? We have no problem celebrating people wearing amazing dresses last night, people doing incredibly great work on the basketball court. but like this is the work that I care about. And so like, like I'll just get really fired up every time you ask me about it. It's just important. I hope that everybody else on this call knows to go thank an educator this week, basically.
Thanks, Joe.
I don't know
Jamie?
if that really answers your question.
Nah, you got it. You got it. Jamie, I wonder, I had a few questions come in about just the role of research here. Um, People who are doing research, trying to figure out how the great work that they're doing reaches audiences, is translated into actionable insights for practitioners and policymakers. And I know you teed it up a bit earlier, but what advice would you give to some of the folks on this call who are doing research, or who are, or folks who are not researchers, who are interested in collaborating with researchers? What do you think might folks do moving forward?
Yeah, I think there's a couple key components. So the first thing that I think sometimes can get lost is there's this like desire to kind of look inward on one program and say like, here's all of the stuff that we're doing, like let's really understand how it works. I think in the typical case, you really need to be able to compare the students or the people who are receiving some intervention to another set of people who didn't. So I think in the video, like Joe makes it really clear looking at the graph. It's like these are the kids who got CIS, these are similar kids who didn't get CIS. There's these big difference, but without knowing what would have happened kind of in this counterfactual world, it's really hard to say kind of what the effect is. At the same time, though, I think keeping good data on the students within the program was totally critical for us. We received great data through Ray and his colleagues, really allowing us to hone in sort of exactly on the set of students within these schools who are likely to kind of work closely with the site coordinator. And I think it was that distinction that really allowed us to say things kind of with more precision. So I would say it's kind of the combination of those two things, like keeping the best records that you can, but then also trying to determine kind of who's the comparison that we can make to who is similar to these people, but just didn't get access to the program, ideally kind of by chance.
Thanks for that, Jamie. So Ray and then Tawhid, I want to go back to you before I give all of you a chance to have a quick last word. Uh, there was a question in the chat, and it's been coming in as well and offline, just about what is it going to take for interventions like this to get to more kids in the U.S. The goal of this series is to celebrate, but it's also to inspire and think about how these solutions can get to more people at scale in this country that so desperately needs it. So I wonder, Ray and Tawhida, how do you think about what's going to have to happen, and what do you hope this series and the efforts on the ground might inspire in the years to come?
Yeah, Rob, I'd love to jump in first because it's both this series, the stories that we get to tell, the research that confirms that there is a proof of concept for the process, the model. And it isn't a question of just CIS. It's this idea has to get to as many places as possible. And that happens with our partners at Place-Based, Cradle Career. Up Partnership in San Antonio got a shout out, but that's part of an ecosystem that includes the Strive network all across the country. And it's putting together these pieces. But here's what we say often, which is that sometimes we're the best kept secret. And what does it look like to get outside of this sort of secret? This is the secret kindness club, as Joe and the team put it. But it's almost as if we know what is working and more people are talking about it and demanding it, it puts pressure on that system that we described, both the decision makers who are at the state level, funding programs like this, at the federal level, supporting this work long term. It means that it took 100 years to break the 4-minute mile barrier, but then it only took 46 days after that for that record to be broken. Awareness that something can be done pushes us to get beyond where we are today, to get creative. And I think the only thing that we're up against is our tolerance for other people's pain or other people's suffering. But the storytelling puts it in such stark terms for us to say there actually is a way to help folks who are disconnected to connect through real people. There is a way to actually systematize this to support not only scaling people, programs, but process. And there's a way to get behind funding it. And I think the only thing that is holding us back really is that ignoring, whether we elect that button to just snooze and say, well, we can get to that. This is the moment. This is, we haven't grown We've been growing faster since the pandemic because folks have realized that we're uncovering something that needs to be true about how we do school. And I think, again, it's demanding it from those decision makers, those legislators to make this true all across the country.
And I will just quickly say, I think we have to keep relationships at the center of this. I think melding what's old school and what's new school, you don't need a credential in caring. Like that goes back to neighborhoods and communities taking care of young people and elderly and leaning into relationships. And what's new school is AI and all of that is that's at the forefront where there is a place for that in this work, but we have to resist the temptation of not centering the relational base of this work. And then that nested infrastructure that Ray mentioned, we have to bring research, policy, and practice together. And this is an example of it. That research informed the way we are telling a story, and that story can lead to policy change and also change the way we think about practices. I see a lot of chats in the calls of like, how can we do this, right? So that's the practitioner lens. And I think as we think about this, embedding it in a broader place-based strategy and creating proof points drives the demand for this type of work and then leads to that policy and systems change that we talked about.
Thanks, Tawhida. Joe, I'm just going to ask you to give us a quick, where do you hope this series goes over in the coming months and years, and then we'll wrap out.
I mean, I feel like it is an honor and a huge opportunity because, I hope that we find more stories that genuinely like this. We are always looking for a transferable lesson, right, in the story. That a great solutions journalism story has a bit of a really interesting how they did that. And the reason that how they did that is useful might be in unusual ways, right? Like I saw a bunch of comments in there wondering like, how can we get CIS into our area? And like, by all means, like, please do follow that notion. But also, right, you might just have someone who is able to operate like Miss Sally in your neighborhood to connect to those other people, right? That I hope we find more stories like this where we can, like, I would just like to see impact, basically, right? Like, just like you guys do in your work, right? You want to see impact on the people that you work with. That's something that I've always been honestly like really in awe of, right? That I get to make stories that might reach more people. But when I see my wife working with students and developing these relationships, that's like, that's a level of impact that I will never have, right? But like, if we can, I hope that we can get there, right? And I think that these stories give us like the best possible chance to get there, where it's like we're helping other people around the country realize, like, if you're, I mean, this is something I'm copying from Rob. If your community has a problem, right, another community does have a solution. And so can we just spread those good vibes and spread positive impact? Like, I just really want that.
Thanks so much, Joe. Well, we're at time, and so we hope that everyone on this call, and to your family and friends, spread it. I already asked everybody in my family, like, you gotta do me a solid and check out this new series. It's really special, so please spread the word. This is your official welcome to Team Dream, and as we said earlier, you can support and engage with this work by liking and commenting on the episode, subscribing to Dream On, signing up for updates from Dream On, and you'll see a link in the chat on how to do that. And the channel will continue to post more short-term content this week, so look out for that. So you're not going to want to miss what's coming next. Stay tuned as our next episode is dropping shortly on June 2nd. We're taking this show down the road, and so you'll learn more about that soon. And lastly, the most important way you can help is just, again, by sharing the channel in today's episode. I challenge everyone on this call to send a link to 3 people who you know also care about reclaiming the American dream. And in closing, I want to extend a special thank you to everyone who made Dream On possible. Thank you to the entire EdRedesign team, with a special shout out to Julie Allen, Sarah Grucha, Marina Jokic, and Tawhida Jackson, Jamie Gracie and Benny Goldman for their landmark research contributions and thought partnership, James, Joe, and their creative collaborators, Dave Mayers, Nista Shanti, Jen Chu and Dion Lee, the Hearthland Foundation, Ray and his team at Communities in Schools, CIS San Antonio, the UP Partnership, and the entire San Antonio community, and our many friends and partners, lots of whom I know are on this call in the US and around the world. Shout out to Paraguay. I saw some folks on here. And we hope today's story and the ones to come inspire you to join this national movement geared towards transforming the places and neighborhoods we call home. The best is yet to come. Thank you.